Last night's WNBA Finals game was absolutely rigged, and there is so much proof. What a terrible way to end this WNBA season.
Would you be surprised if I told you that the winner of the Women's National Basketball Association Finals was already decided before the players even took the court? Rachel DeMita has uncovered something that has fans questioning whether or not the game is fair. Although it may sound unbelievable, this situation has occurred. In her analysis, DeMita presented evidence that makes the possibility of a rigged finals seem all too real. This evidence was presented last night.
Last night's WNBA Finals game was absolutely rigged, and there is so much proof. What a terrible way to end this WNBA season.
We are going to take you through the precise moments when everything changed, the peculiar patterns that went unnoticed, and the reasons why some of the most prominent names in basketball are referring to this game as one of the most obviously rigged occurrences in the history of the sport. What is the evidence? The entirety of it is present, and it is impossible to ignore it. Now let's go back in time to the defining moment that made the controversy so contentious. Breanna Stewart succeeds in catching the ball at the three-point line with 3.2 seconds remaining in the game. Nevertheless, the subsequent events left everyone, from the fans to the commentators, completely perplexed.
I saw a very physical and aggressive New York team. We know this from, being a part of the game for so long that, sometimes you get away with stuff when you're physical and aggressive, and they certainly did. It's a shame that officiating, had such a hand in a series like that.
Are you serious? She just took 5 steps without dribbling the ball. It is imperative that a journey that is so obvious be called without any hesitation in the professional basketball league. Silence, however, in some way. Neither of the referees blew their whistles once. A missed flight might seem like the most contentious issue in this situation, but that is not the case. To make matters even more peculiar, Stewart went up for her shot, and Elena Smith's competition was ruled a foul while she was competing. What about the replay? There is no contact.
Stutter steps and doesn't put the ball down until she gets in the paint.
That alleged foul conduct? It does not exist. However, the referees maintained their position and asserted that Smith was not in a legal guarding position. Such a call was as uncommon as a blue moon for anyone who was familiar with the sport of basketball. It wasn't just Rachel DeMita who was fuming. Fans and commentators alike were taken aback by the entire situation. It is made abundantly clear in the rulebook that legal guarding is defined as having both feet on the floor and facing the opponent, which is exactly what Smith was doing. To add insult to injury, there was a missed travel. There was no contact on the shot, and then there was a foul call that made no sense. For each of these incidents to occur on their own would be questionable, but for all 3 of them to occur together. After DeMita began her investigation, she discovered that what she discovered was only the beginning. Because of the numbers that she discovered, NBA superstars would be at a loss for words. These calls at the 11th hour? Just the tip of the iceberg, to be sure.
So as you can see in this photo here, which is right before Stewie goes up with the ball, Elena Smith is not touching her at all. She has 2 fingers that look like slightly tapping the ball. Her body isn't touching Breanna Stewart. Her arm isn't touching Breanna Stewart. There was clearly 0 contact here.
Moreover, the contentious conclusion was not the only factor. As the game progressed, the pattern continued. Napheesa Collier, who was fighting through a tough defense, was consistently met with no calls, while on the other side of the field, the referees were quick to blow the whistle for the New York team. The most prominent players in the National Basketball Association, NBA, such as LeBron James and Damian Lillard, were unable to remain silent on this matter.
There's 1 foul right here. Literally, her arm is locked up and she's getting smacked in the face.
People pay attention to what LeBron communicates. However, it wasn't just him who did it. This was quickly brought to the attention of Damian Lillard, who pointed out that the referees appeared to have their assignment for the game, and Isaiah Thomas publicly stated that they low-key cheated for New York. The level of backlash that has been shown is not only uncommon, but it is also a clear indication that something went very wrong.
LeBron James tweeted, he said, "I'm sorry, but that wasn't a foul. Let the damn players dictate the outcome of a close, battled, tested game."
This is not a coincidence, as evidenced by the fact that both current and former NBA players have been vocal in their criticism of the referees. The statistics, such as New York's 25 attempts at free throws in comparison to Minnesota's 8, speak for themselves perfectly. This is not merely a disparity. Rather, it is a massive chasm. The story that DeMita discovered is even more unsettling as a result of her further investigation.
Has tweeted, "They low-key cheated for New York, but I get it, LOL."
If you thought the officiating of the game was suspicious, you should wait until you hear about the commissioner's attire. The commissioner of the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, walked out of the game wearing a dress that featured the skyline of New York City during a finals game that featured New York. The symbolism was so obvious that it was impossible to miss, and the responses on social media were overwhelming. A number of individuals started sharing screenshots, claiming that it was the definitive evidence that the league wanted New York to win.
Fans were noticing the commissioner's outfit that she wore for the trophy presentation.
The Empire State Building, Freedom Tower, and other landmarks were displayed on the dress, which was not just any dress. It seemed to be a direct reference to New York City. The reaction was immediate, with former players from the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, chiming in to question how the commissioner could wear such a blatant symbol during a game that was supposed to be neutral. The fact that some people pointed out that you would never see favoritism of this magnitude in other professional leagues added fuel to the fire.
In some of these videos, you guys are actually getting taken down, but just look at this photo right here. I'm gonna save this image before this gets taken down too. Just look at her dress. It's literally the New York skyline.
The head coach of Minnesota, Cheryl Reeve, who is known for her tranquility and professionalism, took the microphone after the game with an intensity that was not typical of her. The inconsistencies in officiating that plagued her team were brought to her attention through her words, which were written with a great deal of frustration. She did not pull any punches, even going so far as to say that the league stole the game from her favorite team. "I am not merely dissatisfied, rather, I am filled with unrefined, unrestrained rage."
I saw a very physical and aggressive New York team. We know this from being a part of the game for so long that sometimes you get away with stuff when you're physical and aggressive, and they certainly did. It's a shame that officiating had such a hand in a series like that.
After that, Cheryl Reeve went on to criticize the rules that the league had established regarding challenges, and she advocated for change not only in this game, but throughout the entire WNBA. Despite the fact that she could be subject to fines or even suspension, she did not care because she believed that speaking out against the system was worth the cost. By drawing a line, she is daring the league to confront the more fundamental problems that exist in the way that it manages games.
Officiating, missing a shot clock violation. This sucks. This is for a championship, right? For both teams, let them decide it. What contact is legal should be the same for both teams. This isn't that hard. And so it's disappointing.
We are at a critical juncture in the WNBA. Despite the fact that the finals of this year had the highest ratings in over 20 years, the aftermath is still putting the league's credibility in jeopardy. There are a lot of people who are wondering if this is even any more about basketball. Critics are referring to it as a reality show that is masquerading as a sports league, and with fans, players, and coaches all speaking out, the league is faced with a difficult decision. Either address the growing doubts or risk losing trust entirely.
They literally cannot escape this reality show genre of television that the WNBA has been stuck in for this entire season. Like they can't beat it. They can't beat it because they do something like this in the finals game. It's crazy.
Every aspect of the final series is being called into question by fans. Were we able to observe a game that was played fairly, or was the result predetermined? Rachel DeMita is not the only one who is bringing attention to these inconsistencies. The reputation of the league is constantly being called into question. Whether or not the game was rigged is no longer the question. Rather, The question that needs to be asked is why it was allowed to take place and what this means for the future of women's basketball.
Brianna Stewart do the cha-cha slide and just throw the ball at the basket and somehow get free throws to win the game in overtime. Like, we saw a rigged game yesterday.